The newest trio of episodes has just been released for Andor Season 2, and oh boy was it great. It makes me so happy to see this show be better than my wildest expectations, and it has even managed to become better than the first season, which I did not think any show could ever accomplish. Andor Season 2 has set the bar high for new Star Wars content, and I honestly don't think we will ever get Star Wars this perfect again, with this unfortunately being the final season of Andor. If you haven't watched episodes 7 through 9 of Season 2 yet, please do yourself a service and watch them already, because I'm about to go into heavy spoilers for them as I recap what happens and give some of my thoughts. For those of you who have already watched these masterpieces of episodes, or you just don't care about spoiling the show for yourself, let's dive right into episode 7. It begins with a shuttle being escorted by a couple of X-Wings arriving at the Rebel base at Yavin 4. It lands and Cassian walks out as we get a nice little pan of the base and we see some fleet troopers in the background. It switches to Willman, who we see is at the base as well. It seems in his previous mission that I guess he just came back from using that shuttle, he was strafed by a blaster bolt, and he shows it to Bix. Willman surprises them and informs Cassian that Luthen needs him to do a mission for him on Gorman. He needs Cassian to kill Dedra Meero on Gorman because eliminating her from the equation would solve a lot of their problems. Later that evening, Bix brings Cassian to a Force healer at the base. I have a lot of questions about this lady. Like, was she another Jedi who survived Order 66? Or was she not involved with the Jedi, but also Force sensitive? And how did she just happen to end up being there? This is all kind of confusing to me because, a Force healer is a pretty rare occupation of Jedi to find, And I'm just kind of wondering the history behind this lady, because that's a pretty significant thing to have a Force healer. And then, is she there later on Yavin, or is what is her role in all this? It just kind of seems random. Cassian is very skeptical of this lady, as he has been living the majority of his life trusting only a small circle of people. He also mentions that Marva had gotten scammed by one of these Force healers, which is why he doesn't trust them. The lady is able to sense him through the Force and walks up to him. She is able to tell exactly where his injury is, and she heals it. She thanks him for the clarity he just gave her by allowing her to heal him, explaining that his strength of spirit has given her faith in her abilities. Cassian is a bit shaken by this, as anybody would be being healed by a magical Force sorcerer that they never even knew existed, as he leaves Bix to question her about what she saw in him. She answers by saying she senses the weight of things within Cassian, that he is a messenger, and that there is somewhere he needs to be, which she infers could be Bix. I think unknowingly this lady has predicted Cassian's future. When she says he is a messenger and he has somewhere he needs to be, that is literally his future. The place he needs to be is Scarif, and the message he needs to send is the Death Star plans. While this is all happening, Cyril Karn is seen walking to the plaza as we see newscasters covering the recent bombing that has occurred at the naval terminal. Because of this, a curfew has now been issued for the entire city. Dedra contacts Partagaz, who confirms with her that they are moving forward with the original plan for Gorman, which is to extract all the Kalkite on the planet, which, as a result, will destroy the planet in the process. He confirms that the Imperial fleet will arrive in 48 hours, and they need to enact martial law as soon as possible. Cyril forces his way into Dedra's office, and we are introduced to a new character, Captain Cato. According to Partagaz, he is a crisis specialist who is bringing his own detachment of troopers to work out the tactical aspect of putting down the insurgents. Cyril confronts Dedra for making the bombing at the naval terminal a setup, and she reveals to him that there are in fact outside agitators who are helping coordinate the Gorman front strikes, which infuriates him since he's been trying to find this out the entire time and she kept him in the dark about this. This is literally his one purpose that he was set out to do on Gorman, which was to find outside agitators and rat them out basically to the ISB so they could be dealt with. And this whole time, Dedra doesn't tell Cyril any of this because Cyril is in fact her pawn. And Cyril is the person who is doing her dirty work for her, and she doesn't want Cyril knowing all this sensitive information that could potentially put her whole project at risk, and because of that, Cyril feels betrayed.
There's evidence of outside agitators.
You serious? That's what I came here for. That is what I've been trying to do since I got here. That is what you told me you wanted, and now there's evidence I have to beg for?
We are trying to prevent an incident.
Like keeping me in the dark.
She tells him to go home and they will soon be rewarded for all they have done. But he questions what they have accomplished because really, Cyril's been used. And he has really been doing nothing this entire time. He was just a pawn being used for Dedra's gain. And he really is, that's the real question, because what has he accomplished? It's nothing. He has accomplished nothing. He meets with Enza Rylands and asks her to stop coordinating with the outsiders because, maybe he could do something, he accomplished something, but she slaps him because she knows he has been the one helping them get set up this entire time, and not only has Cyril now been betrayed by Dedra, but he himself has betrayed the Gorman front, and now nobody likes him. Mon Mothma and Erskine are at the Senate, as her driver, Chloris, asks for her schedule, and as she declines and walks off, Erskine tells her not to get a replacement driver because they might send somebody smart. This is obviously a joke about Chloris because they both are aware that he has been spying on her that entire time and has been unsuccessful at it. She meets with Senator Oron, the Gorman senator, and they talk about the bombing that just happened there, and how it was in fact the Empire who staged it to make the Gorman front look like terrorists as a part of Dedra and Partagaz's plan. He thanks her for all she has done to stand up against the Empire and try to help them out, but he tells her that Gorman is past the point of no return. Finally, he tells her to protect herself, meaning that he knows they'll probably try to go after her next. We see a bit of the Gorman Front's meeting as they are having an argument about whether they should carry out the resistance peacefully or violently. Lazine, the same person who spoke at the town hall meeting in a previous episode and got in that fight, causing Sensa to get shot on accident, brings them all together, saying, "We are the Gore." This is actually the name of the Gorman national anthem, and it will play a significant role in the next episode. The next day, we see the same guy from Rogue One, Draven, who is one of the generals of the Rebel Alliance. He finds Cassian and Wilman loading up a U-Wing with supplies to go on their unauthorized mission to Gorman. He gets kind of mad that Cassian and Wilman are going on this unauthorized mission, and he calls Cassian a privateer and warns him that the day when he may no longer be welcomed on Yavin is near. Cassian doesn't really care though, as he knows that Draven needs him and he'll let this slide. They take off in the U-Wing, and as they're flying away, the view of the gas giant looks so clean. On Gorman, Captain Cato's troops arrive on their transport, and Dedra says they look like children. She's not wrong though, as all these guys look like young, new recruits, and Cato definitely did that for a reason, which I will explain later. Cassian and Wilman arrive at Palmo on the U-Wing, and Wilman tells Cassian what he knows about where Dedra may be, so he knows where to look when the time comes. They split up as Wilman leaves with one of the guys from the Gorman front. Cassian tries to check into the hotel, but since he is posing as a journalist and doesn't have an entry stamp, he is initially denied. Luckily, one of the people working is the same guy who Cassian met a year earlier, who is a part of the Gorman front now, so he gets him a room on the down low. He enters his room and is able to locate some ISB agents inside the building across the plaza. He checks comms with Wilman and he is told to contact again tomorrow morning. He opens his briefcase, which inside contains his disassembled blaster rifle. He uses his detached scope to get a better look at the agents across the plaza and realizes that there are a couple of stormtroopers stationed literally right above his room. On Yavin, Vel talks to Bix, and it is revealed that now she is training new recruits there. She tells her that Draven and Dodonna sent her to talk to her about how they need Cassian. She adds that they aren't Luthen's puppets anymore, and it seems like she is through working for him now, after all this time. She says that Cassian is a leader now, and that he needs some discipline in order to effectively fulfill that role. Bix reassures her that he will be there when they need him. Episode 7 is definitely the calm before the storm, because episodes 8 and 9 are definitely the storm, because damn, these are heavy episodes. So yeah.
This is where the fun begins.
Episode 8 begins on Palmo, and damn, that Imperial factory is tall, as it quite literally shadows above the entire city. In his hotel room, Cassian is assembling his rifle and getting ready for an opportunity to kill Dedra. The Imperials are preparing for a Gorman protest as they are deploying barricades at the plaza. He calls Wilman about this, who looks like he has a new girlfriend. He is just as confused about this as Cassian is, and one of the rebels shouts that the plaza is opening up. Cassian says he will no longer be able to get a clean shot at Dedra because of all the security. Dedra calls Partagaz and expresses her concern about Captain Cato turning her building into a fortress, but he reassures her that the Empire has documented its struggle with the Gorman well enough, and that it can no longer be patient with its plan to extract Calkite from the planet's surface. The Gorman front is arming up as Cyril's mother is comfortable at her home in Coruscant listening to the newscasters on Palmo. The protesters start gathering in the streets, and Carol Rylands is scouting the plaza and realizes it's a trap.
It's a trap!
He tells this to his daughter Enza, but she also knows this and is willing to fight in order to be heard. Caro, however, knows they will be slaughtered and starts having a mental breakdown over this. The Gorman front starts merging into the crowd and Carol starts begging everyone to stop, but they all ignore him. He finds Cyril in the crowd and he is enraged by his presence since he knows he helped set this all up. He tells Cyril that there have been reports of mining equipment being dropped all over the planet, but he shuts this down, swearing it's a rumor. He asks Cyril what the Empire is planning to steal from them, and Cyril frustratingly throws him onto the ground and walks off with the protesters. Cyril, this entire time, has been an Imperial bootlicker without question, and now he is starting to realize that maybe he's been helping the wrong side. He is in a state of denial right now, but his tiny world is about to be shaken by what is about to happen. A cool reference to Rogue One is made as Cassian is checking out of the hotel, when the hotel guy tells him,
"Rebellions are built on hope."
Cassian repeats this same line to Jyn Erso in Rogue One.
Rebellions are built on hope.
This line also seems to have a big impact on Jyn Erso because later in the movie she repeats this same line to the Rebel Alliance when she tries to convince them to invade Scarif.
Rebellions are built on hope.
And this helps both of these scenes so much because they hit so much different now given this context. The protesters gather in the plaza as Cassian turns his headset on to contact Wilman, but the comms are bugging. He spots Dedra briefly standing outside, but he isn't in the position where he can shoot her. Cyril walks into the Imperial building demanding to see Dedra, but is brought into a room to wait for things to calm down. The room is filled with KX droids and one of them sinisterly stares him down. That reminds me, I saw somewhere that they originally were going to include a horror episode this season regarding the KX droids, which would have been really cool. I think this KX droid staring at him in particular is K2SO, because I saw a post on Instagram showing that this droid has the same blaster marks on him, so I would not put it past him to make that actually K2SO. Since he is the one droid who sticks out in that room and seems to have a personality, albeit dark. As more and more protesters continue to fill in the plaza, they repeatedly chant the phrase, "We are Gore. The galaxy is watching," which ties back to what Lizine said at the front's meeting the night before. These visuals of this protest are so well done. So much is going on, like the flags waving, the flare smoke spewing, the TIE fighter flying overhead, all the troopers surrounding them, and the monument and memorial to the 500 people who died when Tarkin landed a shuttle on them here in the plaza, overshadowing them all. It all blends together nicely and looks so cool. Captain Cato orders the sergeant to send his recruits on a patrol out into the crowd to keep the barricaded lane to the memorial open. As this happens, the front members start passing out Molotovs throughout the crowd, and Lizine starts a new chant, and they all sing the Gorman national anthem. This moment is so beautiful. And this is the type of thing that you just gotta watch the episode to be able to fully take in how cool this moment is. And, you know, I can't include the song, obviously, in this video because I'll get copyright strikes, so just go ahead and watch the episode again and just really take this in, because, man, I mean, they do such a good job on every detail. Cyril finds a way to Dedra's office and confronts her about all of this. He asks her what is going on and how long she has known about all of this. He elaborates and asks her further about the armada of mining ships above the planet, and she tries to avoid answering these questions, and he angrily chokes her out. He forces the answer out of her, and she confesses that the Emperor wants to drill their planet for a stone in the dirt. She tells him they can be together now and basically says he's just as guilty since he didn't mind the promotions to be here. Cyril leaves, and the last thing he tells her is good luck, meaning he is through with their whole relationship thing. Cyril escapes the Imperial office and jumps into the crowd. Cassian tries to communicate his location to Wilman, but the comms just aren't working for some reason. Captain Cato asks Dedra to give him the command to execute his plan, and she gives him permission. He orders his sniper he has stationed to shoot one of the Imperial recruits, and this makes the sergeant think he is being attacked, so he shoots one of the protesters climbing up the monument. Once this happens, all hell breaks loose, as the Imperials are doing the same thing they did on Ferrix, wiping out the entire crowd. Following up on what I mentioned earlier, Captain Cato specifically requested a batch of new and inexperienced troops to arrive on Palmo for a reason. If you just so happen to want to carry out a false flag operation like the Gorman Massacre, then the perfect types of people to start it would be these young, jumpy soldiers. Setting up the sniper up top and shooting one of them to make it seem like the crowd was attacking was genius because it caused the soldiers to fire back at the crowd thinking they were under attack. And of course, with their lack of experience, they don't know what else to do besides just fire at these innocent protesters because they don't have the experience to deal with this type of thing. That's exactly why Captain Cato had them here. And this massacre is absolutely brutal, as everyone is getting picked off by the Imperial blaster fire. Some of the front members even get killed, and the Imperials send out that squad of KX droids that were stored up in that room. They are absolutely menacing as they are impenetrable to blaster fire and easily overpower the crowd. Enza gets yeeted by one of them, which kills her. Cyril is just standing there, taking this all in as he realizes the terrible thing he has done by helping Dedra. That hotel guy from earlier tosses a bomb at a group of stormtroopers and wipes them all out, and Cyril notices Cassian taking aim at Dedra. He doesn't even care that he's trying to kill Dedra. He literally just found the dude he's been searching for the past few years, so he straight up tackles him and starts beating him up. Cassian eventually gets the upper hand and pins him down as an explosive detonates, knocking him out temporarily. Cyril wakes up, picks up a gun, and holds Cassian at gunpoint. Cassian then proceeds to have the audacity to tell Cyril this at his moment of perceived triumph.
Who are you?
Cyril is beyond broken at this point, but these words are the final blow. Cassian has been living rent-free in his head for years, but when he finally sees him face to face, he doesn't even recognize him. It's literally that one scene from Endgame.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
Cyril lowers the blaster as he just stands there in disbelief and is shot in the head by Caro Rylance. The story of Cyril Karn is such a tragedy, man. He is not only the victim of an oppressive system that used him for its own gain, but also wasted years of his life dedicating his time to find somebody who doesn't even remember who he is. On top of this, he had been starting to question his own purpose, knowing that he was being used by the person he loves most, Dedra. Once he figures this out, his world is shaken, and the one purpose he had was stripped from him. And this line Caro said earlier this episode to him makes a lot more sense now.
What kind of a being are you?
Cyril wasted his entire life trying to find Cassian, and the last words he hears from him are, "Who are you?" Like, that's crazy. He dies alone, but let's be honest, he had kind of been a loner this entire time. The only person who mourns him in this episode is his mother, who we later see crying as she watches the news of the massacre. Cassian and Wilman leave the plaza, and Wilman tells Cassian that he needs to find his girlfriend Drina, but Cassian doesn't want to leave him behind. As this happens, a person is launched into a wall by a KX droid and it chases them down, menacingly. He is about to get killed by this thing, but it gets absolutely plowed by one of the Imperial transports. One of the rebels who accidentally killed Cinta in a previous episode managed to steal one and save them. This rebel guy and Wilman split up with Cassian to find Drina, and before they do, Cassian asks them one last favor, which is to load the KX droid onto the transport. He saw how powerful these droids are, so he probably thought it would be useful to see if the rebels at Yavin can reprogram one of them, which is how K2SO comes to be. One of the most impactful parts of this episode is the aftermath, when we hear Drina transmitting a final call for help on the open comm frequency.
There are hundreds of bodies this moment. As I say these words, hundreds of murdered government lay dead in Famo Plaza. Thousands more on the streets, more every minute. We're being destroyed.
It's so eerie the way that she says that thousands of people are dying on the streets and that they are being massacred. Lastly, we switch to Dedra, who looks like she is starting to question what she is doing as she is having a mental breakdown. Wow. This episode was a masterpiece and might be one of the best episodes, if not the best episode Andor has given us so far. Everything about it was perfect. The protests, the brutality of the massacre, Cyril Karn's tragic end, and K2SO's sudden beginning. This episode gave us so much to think about, and there is still one more episode after this, so let's get into it. The majority of episode 9 is about Mon Mothma, and it starts with Senator Oren being arrested by a squad of stormtroopers. The way they frame this scene when Oren says this line is pretty important.
It's my people today and yours tomorrow. Remember this day. Remember Gorman. This would be useful enough.
I think it's so clever that the camera pans to Bail Organa as he says yours tomorrow, because Alderaan does eventually get destroyed by the Death Star. Mon speaks to Bail about how insane the Gorman massacre is and tells him that she plans to make a speech tomorrow. She adds that she and Bail need an exit plan, but Bail already has one and it doesn't involve him. He wants to stay behind because he needs to buy time because Yavin isn't ready yet. He tells her that Yavin needs some strong leadership and that's why she needs to flee there. Cassian meets with Clea at the antique store, and she tasks him with extracting Mon Mothma from the Senate chamber. He expresses his desire to be done doing missions for the rebellion. He has been through so much and honestly deserves to be done with fighting, but the rebellion still needs him, and Clea expresses that. At Mon Mothma's office, Erskine finds an Imperial listening device, and he brings it to her, and she smashes it. This alerts the Imperials as the listening officer sees the signal cut off. As Mon is practicing her speech outside, Luthen finds her and tells her Erskine is working for him. He warns her that Bael's extraction team he has prepared for her has been corrupted and not to trust them. She is reluctant to trust Luthen since Bael is one of her closest allies, and Luthen did kill Tay Kolma, one of her childhood friends. And things like this has really made her distrustful of him because what if she becomes a loose end and he wants to kill her? And honestly, this is kind of what she thinks is happening. I bet she's thinking, just like Tay Kolma, Luthen could be sending her to her death, just like he sent Tay to his death. And she doesn't know who to trust. And I kind of understand where she's coming from because Luthen is this very dedicated guy where if there is a leak in sources and, Mon's under all this political pressure and she may get captured, it honestly would be pretty convenient for Luthen to kill her. But no, that's not what he wants to do. He needs Mon Mothma to lead the rebellion and be the figurehead. And so Mon doesn't really fully understand this yet, and so she just thinks that Luthen may be trying to kill her. He sees this distrust in her, but he still gives her the code phrase, "I have friends everywhere," so she knows who to trust when the time comes later. Later, the listening officer tells the ISB supervisor Lagret of the listening device being cut off in Mon Mothma's office. Mon confronts Erskine for working with Luthen behind her back and asks him when he started, which he did right after the wedding when he met Luthen. She proceeds to fire him for this betrayal of her trust, but obviously he isn't out of the picture since in the Rebels show, he brings her onto the Ghost. Cassian and Clea meet up with Luthen at the Senate building, and Cassian is angry that Luthen isn't leaving with him to Yavin. Luthen has already accepted his fate as a dead man, and I guess still sees work to be done in the background. He mentions Narkina 5 when discussing Cassian's history, so I guess at some point off screen, Cassian had told him the whole story. They decide to go forward with the plan to extract Mon, and Cassian enters the Senate building. He is still pretending to be the same journalist from Gorman, as he is posing as a survivor of the massacre and coming back to report on the Senate hearing. Bael's corrupted extraction team meets up, and they start to move into place to prepare. Bael gives Mon the details of his escort team, and she asks him if he trusts them. He says he trusts them, but he admits to her that he doesn't know them, which kind of gives her clarity that Luthen was probably telling the truth. He tells her that he will see her next year on Yavin, which I believe is during Rogue One. The last thing he tells her is pretty dope though.
Tear the shit out of this place.
She quite literally proceeds to do this here in a minute, just you wait. Erskine meets up with Cassian by using the code phrase, and he shows him the way to Mon's Senate Gate. Things start to make a lot more sense now how Luthen knows Bael's team is corrupted when Lagret gets a call from Lonnie Jung's agent, who has infiltrated the extraction team. Luthen got this crucial information from Lonnie, whose agent reported to him, and in turn, he gave this intel to Luthen. Without Lonnie, the rebellion would have never gotten on its feet, as Mon Mothma would have walked right into the Empire's trap. This undercover agent gets found out by the other extraction member and she shoots him. During the Senate session, Bael invokes Article 17-252, allotting the rest of his speaking time to Mon Mothma so she has enough time to give her entire speech. Mon takes the floor as she gives her speech, and let me just say, it is beautiful.
What happened yesterday on Gorman was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber. And the monster screaming the loudest, the monster Eve helped create, the monster who will come for us all soon enough, is Emperor Palpatine.
Lagret gets her speech cut off the broadcast, and when her speech ends, Cassian uses the code phrase and gets her out of there. He tells her that he knows Vel from the raid on Aldhani to help further gain her trust. As he is getting her through the very crowded room, Lonnie's agent holds them at gunpoint, but Erskine catches her attention suddenly enough for Cassian to catch her off guard, and he shoots her. Lonnie is such a genius for planting this incompetent agent who decided to flash her gun at everybody and reveal that she was an ISB agent. Like, who does that? I mean, Really, if she was smart, she would have tailed them and then she would have like tracked them down to their apartment that they eventually go to and then call the ISB there. But no, she has to just do all this rash stuff now and then she gets shot and killed. And yeah, she's incompetent. Erskine stays behind while he gets her out, and Mon is shook from seeing that woman get killed right in front of her and says she doesn't think she can do this. And all Cassian has to say, with everything he's seen and done, is,
Welcome to the rebellion.
this shows the divide between how Mon has been fighting the Empire in the Senate and how rebels like Cassian have been fighting the Empire on the front lines. They find a way out of the Senate building, but Mon's driver catches them leaving. She tells Cassian that he's an ISB plant, and Cassian immediately kills him. Mon's expression when he shoots him is priceless. They escape in Mon's car as the episode switches to Yavin, where several recruits are being given weapons by Vel. One of the weapons she gives out is the same blaster they used in Aldhani, and the person it now belongs to is Melshi, as he has found his way into the rebellion. That's how you know a show is good, when even a blaster has its own story arc. Cassian brings Mon to the apartment he and Bix had been staying in, and it is revealed that Willman and Drina were able to escape Gorman. Albeit, barely. I will say it was such a relief seeing Willman survive Gorman because I really did think that was the last time we were going to see him. Erskine tells Cassian that there is a ship waiting for Mon and that they want her to make a speech. This ship will have an escort from Yavin, which is Gold Squadron. This ties directly into Season 3, Episode 18 of Rebels called Secret Cargo, where Mon Mothma is brought onto the Ghost and broadcasts her speech denouncing the Empire and officially establishes the Rebel Alliance. Mon Mothma tells Cassian she doesn't know how to thank him, and Cassian tells her to make it worth it. The show jumps forward to Cassian and Drina bringing Willman back to Yavin on the U-Wing, and he is brought to immediate medical attention. Draven tells Cassian that Gold Squadron has been tasked with escorting Mon Mothma, and that he is free to watch her speech in his office. Cassian decides to add at the end of the conversation that there's a dead KX droid inside the U-Wing, as he makes his way back to his house to find Bix. Cassian wants to be done now. He feels like he has done enough, but Bix doesn't want to be the reason he leaves the rebellion. So overnight, she leaves while he is sleeping and leaves a message behind for him to read, ending with her saying that she'll find him when it's all over. This is rough, because, of course, Cassian dies on Scarif, and they never do see each other again. One of the rebels tells him that they are getting ready to power up the KX droid, as it looks like the rebels have managed to successfully fix and reprogram it. And I think it's funny that they're all aiming the blasters at it like that'll do anything. Like, the thing is literally blaster-proof, guys. The scene where he powers up is pretty funny.
Hello. If I've offended you, I apologize. If not, I'd appreciate you pointing that elsewhere.
After all the trauma we have gone through in Andor, it is definitely nice to see some good old K2SO comic relief. I've missed seeing him in Rogue One, so this makes me so happy. And yeah, that's basically it. These episodes were phenomenal. Dare I say, this is the best Star Wars content we have ever gotten in the history of the franchise. This is what Star Wars is about, man. The feeling of being so excited while watching these videos and speculating what might happen in between releases has been so much fun, and it saddens me that we only have one more release left before Andor is completely finished. We gotta just cherish these moments while we have them, because this show is something special. Episode 9 felt like the finale, but somehow there are 3 episodes left, and I wonder if there is a way that they can even top these episodes. If I had to make a few predictions, I think that firstly and most obviously, Luthen will die. Now, how he exactly will die is the question. Personally, I think he will die saving Lonnie, his family, and Clea. These people have given everything to him this entire time, and I can see Luthen sacrificing himself to save them as a way to right some of his wrongs as a form of redemption. This would be such a great send-off for his character. As for Cassian, I think he may be called to help get Lonnie, his family, and Clea out of there as one final favor for Luthen. I would assume that K2SO will be brought onto this mission with him, and we'll probably see him wreak havoc on some Imperials in the process. For Dedra, I'm pretty sure she will still be a part of the story to some degree, as she is seen in the trailer at Luthen's antique store. I think she will finally confront Luthen and they will both die at the end. I think we'll see Mon Mothma begin her leadership at Yavin, and we'll see the base start to develop a lot. I was happy to see that I got at least one of my predictions from my last video correct, which was the prediction that we would see Mon Mothma flee in one of these episodes. So I'm curious to see how accurate my predictions will be for the last few episodes. So yeah, that was my recap and thoughts about the newest episodes of Andor Season 2. I try to read and respond to every comment, so please feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to spam that like button. This is Narfboy, saying bye. Bye!